I was 11 the year my father died in the furrow, and 11 still when I learned that an old dog can hold a line better than most grown men I've met since. We ran the stall at the Saturday market in New Halloway, same corner every week, under the green awning my mother patched twice a season. Preserves, eggs, whatever the garden gave up that month, laid out in crates my father had built the winter before he died, the wood still holding the shape of his hands better than any photograph did. Cooper lay under the table on a folded feed sack, the way he'd lain under my father's workbench for 9 years before that, and the way he'd lain under nothing at all for the 6 months since. He was a big yellow Labrador, gone gray around the muzzle and soft in the belly, and his idea of a hard day's work was following the sun across the board so he could keep sleeping in it. Customers liked him. Alien traders passing through liked him too, in the distant way you like a piece of local color. The harmless old dog, always in the same spot, never any trouble. He didn't guard the stall, he decorated it. That's what everyone thought, including me, most days. The scarn came through Aldrin's furrow twice a month on tally rounds, and everyone knew to have the ledger sums right before they arrived, because a scarn tally agent did not enjoy being made to recalculate in public. They were tall and narrow and moved like they were always one step from irritated, gray-scaled, robed in the deep collector's blue that meant they answered to the Concord office and not to us. Most of them came through, checked the numbers, stamped the tab, and moved on. The one who stopped at our stall that morning was not one of the usual ones. He introduced himself as Tally Agent Vren, which meant nothing to me then and everything to me now. He had my mother's ledger open before I'd finished counting change for a woman buying honeycomb, and he was already frowning at it the way that meant trouble had arrived ahead of any actual problem. "This account is short," he said. "Third quarter. 12 units short. Against the mine widow allowance. My mother wasn't at the stall. She was 2 rows over trading for seed cloth, and I was old enough to run the counter alone, but not old enough, apparently, to be trusted with an argument about numbers I hadn't written. I told him my mother handled the ledger and could he come back when she returned, and he looked at me the way some of them look at children who are being handled instead of listened to. "You'll come with me to the enforcement office," he said. "We'll sort the discrepancy there, with your mother, once she's located." I said I wasn't going anywhere, that my mother would be back in a few minutes, that he was welcome to wait. I kept my voice level the way my father used to keep his, because I'd noticed by then that raising your voice in an argument with a scarn only convinced them they were winning it. Vren didn't care for that either. He reached across the stall and took my wrist. Not hard, not the kind of grip that leaves a mark. Just enough to make the point that I would in fact be coming with him whether I agreed to it or not. That was when Cooper stood up. He didn't bark. In 9 years I don't think I ever heard him bark at anything that wasn't a delivery drone. He came up off the feed sack slow, the way he got up from anything these days, joints stiff, and he walked around the edge of the table and put himself between me and Vren's arm without any hurry at all, like he was simply relocating to a better patch of sun. He sat, he looked at Vren's hand on my wrist, and then he looked at Vren's face, and he didn't do anything else. No growl, no teeth. His tail didn't even stop its slow, half-hearted wag, the one he did at everybody, friend or stranger, out of nothing but old habit. Vren looked down at him and laughed, one short syllable of it. "Is this meant to concern me? It's a companion animal. It's decorative." A few people near the stall had already stopped what they were doing. Market crowds learn things fast when there's nothing else to look at, and a Concord agent gripping a child's arm was already the kind of thing that drew eyes. Nobody said anything. Nobody moved to help, because nobody moves against a tally agent in the open square, not over 12 units and a debt they didn't understand yet. But I remember the quiet changing shape. It went from the ordinary quiet of people minding their stalls to the specific quiet of people who had noticed something and were waiting to see what it turned into. Vren tightened his grip, more out of irritation than intent, I think, already turning to say something else to me, and that was when old Herna spoke up. She ran the leather stall 2 down from ours, one of the handful of scarn who'd settled in New Halloway permanently instead of rotating through with the Concord, and she'd kept working beast hounds back on the homeworld before the resettlement, the kind bred to run herds across country that ate careless animals for breakfast. She didn't raise her voice either. She just said, plain, the way you'd warn a man about a step he hadn't seen yet. "Vren, let go of the child." He didn't, not yet. "This is a Concord matter, Herna, and that dog, she said, has already decided how the next 10 seconds go, and you are the only one standing here who hasn't noticed. I've seen that stillness before. It's not a decorative animal's stillness. Let go of her arm." I want to say I understood in that moment what she meant, but I didn't, not really. I only understood that Herna's voice had changed the temperature of the square. and that everyone around us had gone very still, in a way that mirrored Cooper more than it mirrored me. Vren looked down again. Cooper hadn't moved. He was still sitting, still watching, still doing that same slow half-wag, ears soft, eyes steady on the hand at my wrist, like he was waiting on nothing more urgent than his supper. It was the stillness that did it, not a threat display. Just an animal who had already, calmly, finished deciding something, and was simply waiting for the world to catch up to the decision. Vren let go. He didn't apologize. Scarn rarely do, not out loud, not to a human child over a ledger error that turned out, when my mother returned, to be his own miscount and not ours. But he stepped back from the stall a full pace, and he didn't reach for me again. And when my mother arrived and corrected his sums in about 90 seconds flat, he stamped the tab and left, without meeting anyone's eyes, walking a little faster than a man walks when he isn't in any particular hurry. Cooper didn't get up right away. He stayed sitting a moment longer, watching Vren's back until it had cleared the row, and then he turned and leaned his whole heavy shoulder into my leg, the exact way he used to lean into my father's, back when my father was the one standing at that counter and Cooper was just a dog who liked the sun. I put my hand on his head. My wrist still had the shape of Vren's fingers on it, faint, already fading, and it would be gone by supper. Cooper's weight against my leg took longer to fade than that, and some part of it honestly never has. Herna came by later with a strip of dried meat for him, which he accepted with the same unhurried dignity he brought to everything, and she told my mother, not unkindly, that we ought to know what we had under that stall table. My mother said she'd known for 9 years. I hadn't, not the way I understood it after that morning. Not that a dog's calm could be a decision, and not that the decision could be enough, all on its own, to make a grown man let go of something he had no right to be holding in the first place. We kept the stall at that same corner for 6 more years, until I was old enough to run it without anyone thinking twice about arguing me down. Cooper kept sleeping through most of it, following the sun across the boards, decorating the place right up until the year he couldn't anymore. Nobody in New Halloway ever grabbed my arm again. I don't think that was a coincidence. I think the market remembered, the way markets do, and I think somewhere in a Concord office there's a tally agent who still flinches, faintly, at the sight of a slow wag. People ask me sometimes, now that I'm the one running a stall of my own 2 colonies over, whether I was frightened that morning. And I tell them the truth. I wasn't, not really, not once Cooper stood up. It wasn't that I believed he'd have done anything dramatic, it was that I understood, the way you understand weather coming, that he'd already settled the matter in his own mind, and the rest of us were only waiting to see how the settling would look from the outside. That's the part I never managed to explain to Herna when she asked. It isn't that the dog was dangerous, it's that he was finished being worried, and everyone in that square except Vren could feel the difference.